I think, Rahul, the most important thing that I found is that there was a distinct difference between 1946 and 1978 when demonetization was done. Again, the nation was told that corruption will be rooted out. But the follow-up measures didn't come. This time it seems Mr. Modi, the Prime Minister, has lined up some of the measures. For example, Taxation Second Amendment Act is already there. There was an income disclosure scheme, then the Benami Properties Transactions Act, and now he seems to have some more ammunition coming along the way. And he is saying that the trails are there and the income tax department will be looking into them. But that's a separate story. I mean, I have some points on that as well. If we have the time, I'll discuss
So we'll come to what the Prime Minister may say on the 31st in just a moment from now. I want to go across to Mohan Guruswamy and talk to him about whether skeptics will be satisfied with the economic rationale behind demonetization that the Prime Minister has offered in this interview to India Today magazine.
I don't think he has offered any rationale at all. He has offered his views, which may not be correct, quite correct and quite accurate. He has committed a huge act of stupidity by landing us into this mess, and now he's trying to wriggle out of it with new policies and a new string of policies he said he might do. And we'll have to wait and see, because I think it's going to be, you're not going to recover what you lost. If you lost 2 to 3% of the GDP, you've lost it, it's gone. And that is the cost of demonetization. Couldn't you have done this better? Couldn't you? And what was the hurry to put a guillotine on it? You could have said that you can change it till May or June quietly, easily, without this panic, without driving people off jobs, without losing stock, without losing crops, without losing so many things. And he's inflicted huge
Nitin Desai, one of the things the Prime Minister says, where he justifies the timing, when he's speaking to Raj Chengappa, he justifies the timing by saying it's a matter of common sense to understand that if India's economy was weak, this decision could not have been taken. It was consciously taken when the economy is in good shape, as such a sharp correction could have only been made then to fortify its foundations and give it a further boost. A lot of people, like John Dress said, it's like shooting a racing car. The Prime Minister says you can only take a drastic decision of this nature when the going is good.
Well, I'd say that this is something that one can question. The Indian economy was facing a serious problem of maintaining growth. Investments, the rate of investment has been falling, and what this has done is it has cracked consumer confidence. The consumers are withdrawing from the market. Today, having money in the bank is not going to be enough. You have to persuade people to come back into the market, consumers. You have to persuade companies to come back into the investment process. So my concern is that actually it did not come at the optimum time, because in many ways I think the Indian economy badly needed a demand boost, and this has delayed that demand boost. My second question, which I would like you to pursue, is has it endangered perhaps an even more important reform, GST? Because if it has done that, then the price is horrendous. Because GST would have been a real game changer. It would have provided
Rajiv
the
Kumar,
foundation.
this is something we've heard earlier as well. We had Stanley Pingle from The Economist magazine saying, global investors are wary because they're not certain that there will be stability in the Indian economy. There could be a wild change which confounds all their calculations. Global investors like stability. Through this decision, the Prime Minister has really called into question whether or not India can expect it to be stable.
Yeah, but the global investors, Rahul, also like a cleaner administration, an economy where you've got predictability in terms of what sort of tax regime, etc., are going to be followed. And they don't like, I don't think the global investors like to invest in an economy where 30 to 40% of your economy is is running parallelly and is not within the formal economic system. As far as the losses of 2, 3, 4% of GDP, which my friend Mohan says it's a gross exaggeration. Everybody, 11 out of 13 or 14 estimates are less than 1%. And the fact is that, as the finance minister pointed out today, it is not at least showing up, these losses are not showing up in revenue returns. These revenue returns continue to be buoyant.
Let's take our viewers through that data. In fact, I want to put that out on the screen right now, the data that's been put out by the finance minister, because Mohan Guruswamy was saying that the economy could collapse by 2 or 3%. To counter that, finance minister Jaitley has put out a whole bunch of data saying that income tax collection is up by 14.4%. This is data for November. Not just this, he also says that excise duty collections are up by 43.5%. There's a 25.7% increase in service tax collections. There's more currency being recirculated in the economy. The Rabi sowing, instead of contracting, has actually grown by 6.3% over last year. So Mohan Guruswamy, instead of a dire scenario where, you know, there are suggestions like the one that you made that the economy could collapse by 2 or 3%, the finance minister has just put out data to argue the opposite, that there may have been a downfall in November, but it's picking up in December.
A 2% drop. A 2% drop is not a collapse. But let me just finish. Let me just say something. The figures the finance minister is trotting out are figures for end of last financial year. The figures for this year would not even be ready, would not even be computed. So I think, you know, there's a little bit of exaggeration out here, quite a lot of bit of exaggeration, because what is happening on the ground is, you take the bellwether for the rural economy, motorbike sales. Motorbike sales have dropped. Motorbike sales have dropped by 11% in November, and by 35% they expected to drop in December. So what are you talking about? Collections per transaction, the value of per each transaction has dropped from 2,229 to 1,714. So where is all this growth coming from? Where is all this income coming from? It doesn't tally with what's happening on the ground.
Okay, let Rajiv Kumar respond. Because take mobile sales, for example, key indicator of rural sentiment, the numbers are down quite dramatically from last year.
Because Rajiv Kumar probably thinks there's a growth here.
Mr. Kumar?
No, you know, but the point is that while the, you know, you say that the motorbike numbers are down, yes, no, the motorbike sales are down, yes, okay, but the fact is that all the other rest of the indicators that you have are not as dire as some of these sectors. And you know, I have pointed out this yesterday as well, that you might just get a...
No, one at a time, gentlemen, just 1 second. Allow me to lay the ground rules for this broadcast, Mr. Guruswamy. We'd like it if our guests speak one at a time. I don't like people speaking over each other. Our viewers can't make sense. You're all very celebrated people. We're keen on listening to what you're saying, but one at a time. I will give you an opportunity to interject and rebut what Rajiv Kumar is saying, but allow him first to complete his argument. Rajiv Kumar, go ahead, please.
If a part of the informal economy, which was not until now, you know, estimated as a included in the GDP estimates, comes into the GDP estimates now, what you might see actually are the sort of figures that the finance minister is giving out, and this is what some of us must recognize, that if this move has helped to bring a part of the informal, unregistered, unaccounted economy into the formal economy, you might get growth which may be spurious in terms of, you know, real activity, etc. But the GDP numbers will show you that that activity has increased.
That's a good point. Let me bring in Meera Sanyal into this conversation. Income tax collection going up, excise duty collection jumping 43.5%, service tax going up as well. Rabi sowing season more productive than last year. The finance minister puts out this data to suggest that the economy is actually picking up. It's not as dire as Mohan Guruswamy would have us believe.
Till what time is this data valid?
So Rahul,
is it up to November? Is it till December?
No, this is post demonetization data, he said. He said that very clearly.
No,
Meera Sanyal.
No, it's not there. Look at what has happened to the agriculture sector.
I completely agree with Mr. Guruswamy.
Meera Sanyal, please.
I completely agree with Mr. Guruswamy because he is right. Firstly, we don't have the data for November, and secondly, What period has this gone up over, Rahul? Is it going up over October? Because of course taxes have to go up. The only data we have November to November is ostensibly the Rabi data. So these are statistics which are being put out without any reference to context. And I think we need to move away from the rhetoric into real numbers, Rahul, because a lot of this is very emotional speeches, etc. But let's talk about the objectives of this move. The plan was that black money would be tackled, that black money would get extinguished. In fact, Mr. Lahiri and I took a bet, I think you will remember, and you had estimated that 25% of the amount demonetized would not come back into the system, and then it would have been declared a victory. So the real question, and we would like to know this from the finance minister, is how much money has been deposited back into the banks. We have not had an estimate of that now for several weeks. That's question number one. Question number two is how much money has come in under the Prime Minister's Garib Kalyan Yojana, because these two numbers will give us an estimate of actually how much black money was extinguished out of demonetization. The third question is how many counterfeit notes were caught either by the banks or by the currency chest
That's a good
or
point.
by the Reserve Bank.
Dr. Lahiri, do you concede you lost that bet to Meera Sanyal? You were on our town hall. You said that 15% of the currency should not come back. We're already told that about 14.5 lakhs plus has come back into the coffers. Does that mean you've lost that bet? Do you believe demonetization has failed? Because that was your definition during our town hall, sir.
No, I think Meera will still have to. Meera still will have to buy me my Nimbu Pani, because the reason is when you say that it will not come back into circulation, what I meant is that this money cannot be used. So some of it will not come back, some of it will be impounded in the form of taxes. For example, the Taxation Second Amendment Act, which puts a 75% tax plus a surcharge of 10%, which makes it 82%. So some of it will be impounded. We need to, just money coming back to the bank doesn't mean it's circulating.
That's the counter. Meera Sanyal, that's the government's counter. Money coming back into banks doesn't mean it's become legitimate. They say the tax apparatus will go after those who've put in money that's unaccounted for.
Can I just come in, please?
Well, you know, Rahul, let me say this. I find this a very, very strange argument. Money in itself is not black or white. It is assumed that all the money which has come in is black money, that all cash is black. I have said this many times, and many others, including some politicians, have said it, that all cash is not black and all black is not cash. Does Mr. Lahiri not realize that a lot of this cash is working capital, which has been put into the banks, and when you lift the withdrawal limits, people will take it out and use it for their businesses.
It could become black again, you're saying. Okay, time for interjections. Raj Chengappa wants to make a quick counter.
And most of India's cash economy, well, it doesn't have to become black.
No, I just wanted to say that while interviewing the Prime Minister, he actually turned the argument around. He said, look, we actually expected all the money to come, the 15 lakh crores into the banks. He believed that there was a large amount of 500 rupee and 1000 rupee notes stashed in cupboards. And though he didn't give me an estimate, from what I gathered from his officials, was something like 6 lakh crores that stayed unutilized. His belief and his argument, and of course we have experts here to contest that, is that all this money coming back into the formal economy, to the banks, firstly leaves a paper trail or a financial trail, which makes it difficult to be again converted back into black, or they could, the income tax guys could do it. And second, this would stimulate growth. Do you all believe the
Nitin
Prime Minister's
Desai
argument?
wants to come in on that, make a counter.
Yeah, I think first basically, I think the Prime Minister projected this now as an information-seeking device. What I read into this is that there will be more measures in order to follow up on the information which has been gathered through this. I would also agree with Meera that the real test of the mobilization of black wealth is what has happened in the IDS schemes, the different IDS, the 3 IDS schemes that we've had now. My final point I want to make is that the disruption of the unorganized sector with workers losing their jobs, going back to villages, etc., won't show up in the current numbers. It will show up in the next quarter and after that. What to me is most important is the fact that people are withdrawing from the market, both consumers as well as producers. And something has to be done to rebuild confidence to get them back. You can't run an open market economy purely with a danda. You have to run it with incentives. And I hope that the government gets onto that. Second, please don't ditch GST. For God's sake, get GST done. It is the biggest single thing. And the GST, I would have done GST first, cashless transaction promotion afterwards, and demonetization third. Instead, we are doing it the other way around. Demonetization first, because you see, the GST requires people to upload transactions. And that once you do that, you automatically get into the formal payment system. It would have been a great change. But now I hope it is not endangered. And if I were advising the Prime Minister, I would say, forget everything else, just focus on getting GST done.
Okay, Mohan Guruswamy wanted to make a counter as well. I need to take a break, but before that, let's listen to Mohan Guruswamy.
No, I didn't want to make a counter to Nitin. I agree with everything he said. But you know, the other point I'd like to make is on slowdown of the economy, particularly for Rajiv, is that the agriculture sector was supposed to grow at 20.6. That growth now is down to 8.8. The large farmers have also lost. This is for small farmers. The large farmers are supposed to get 20.6 also, and they've got 16.3. So, you know, everywhere it's slowing down. So accept the fact it's slowing down. Accept the fact that the government will try its best to defend what it did, to defend the indefensible with all kinds of data. We know from this government tends to fudge a bit, and most governments fudge, and this one tends to fudge a little more. So don't give it credence here. Now we have to think of how are we going to get out of this hole.
Okay, that's the question on which we'll take a break.
People have lost jobs.
How soon will the Indian economy bounce back? Given where we are, you know, we've heard the netas, we've heard the journalists, but the ones who are best placed to answer this question, if at all, the finance minister says, even the prime minister said in this interview, even the economists don't fully know what's going on, but they're best placed to answer the question. How soon will normalcy return? How soon will the Indian economy bounce back? We'll ask this question to the India Today Economists Roundtable when we come back on the other side of a very quick break. You're watching India Today. Stay with us.